Your mind is a garden. Your thoughts are the seeds. You can grow flowers, or you can grow weeds. Negative thinking doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it whispers a subtle doubt, a quiet fear, a voice in your head that says, "You're not good enough. You always mess things up. What's the point in trying again?" These thoughts may sound harmless, even realistic, but left unchecked, they take root. And once they do, they begin to shape how you see yourself, how you act, and ultimately, the life you build. Most people think negative thinking is just a side effect of bad circumstances, but it's not. It's a habit, a mental pattern that quietly repeats until it becomes your default way of living. And the longer you let it run, the deeper it digs. It becomes the lens through which you see every opportunity, every challenge, every version of yourself. But here's the truth. Just because a thought enters your mind doesn't mean it belongs there. You have the power to challenge it, to replace it, to rewire the story you tell yourself every day. Today, I'm going to show you how to do exactly that. I'll walk you through 10 powerful principles that will help you take back control of your mindset, break free from the grip of negativity, and start building the mental strength needed to rise, no matter what. Stay with me for the next few minutes as I show you how to kill your negative thinking and rebuild a mindset built for success. Let's dive in. Number 1, make self-improvement a daily practice. Negative thinking doesn't need a grand entrance. It slips in quietly, often when your guard is down. And the truth is, if you're not feeding your mind with strength, the world will feed it with doubt. That's why self-improvement must become a daily habit, not a weekend project, not a New Year resolution, but a consistent part of your life. Think of your mind like a garden. If you don't intentionally plant the seeds of growth, weeds will grow on their own. Doubt, insecurity, excuses, they flourish in untended soil. But when you take responsibility for your personal growth every day, you begin to shape your mindset with purpose, not by accident. Let me give you a real-life example. Brian Tracy, one of the world's most respected success mentors, didn't come from a privileged background. He dropped out of high school, worked low-wage labor jobs, and struggled to make ends meet. But he made a decision to read, to learn, to feed his mind every single day with the tools that would eventually transform his life. He read thousands of books, listened to tapes, took notes, and step by step, he rewrote the story of life, not because he had more talent than others, but because he refused to let his mind go untended. The biggest mistake most people make is thinking growth is optional, but it's not. It's essential. If you're not intentionally growing, you're unconsciously decaying. Every day you either reinforce strength or feed weakness. 10 pages of a great book, 15 minutes of a meaningful podcast, writing your goals, reflecting on what worked and what didn't. These things may seem small, but over time they transform you. It's not about being perfect, it's about being committed. You don't need to do everything, just something. Something that reminds your mind who you're becoming. The days you feel tired, the days you feel off, the days you want to quit. Those are the most important days to show up. Because showing up is what kills the voice that says, you never finish. You build belief by keeping promises to yourself. And nothing silences negative thinking faster than a track record of follow-through. Every time you grow a little, you give negativity a little less room to breathe. So decide today, no matter how busy life gets, no matter how loud the world becomes, you will make time to build your mind. Because when self-improvement becomes a daily practice, strength becomes your default, and doubt doesn't stand a chance. Number 2, detach from past failures and regrets. Nothing feeds negative thinking faster than an unhealed past. The mistakes you made, the chances you missed, the words you wish you never said, or the opportunities you wish you had taken, they don't just sit quietly in your memory. They replay like a broken record, reminding you of what went wrong and convincing you that it's who you still are. But the truth is this, your past is not a life sentence. It's a lesson. And it only has power over your future if you keep dragging it there. The danger of holding on to regret is that it becomes an identity, When you've failed once, your mind starts attaching labels. I always mess things up. I'm not good at relationships. I'm too late to fix this. These aren't just thoughts, they become your default settings. And every new challenge, every new decision, gets filtered through the lens of who you used to be, not who you're capable of becoming. That's how regret traps you. Not in the event itself, but in the meaning you keep giving it. Let me share a story with you. Layla was once a proud bakery owner in Lahore. Her small shop was the product of years of hard work, early mornings and late nights. It wasn't just a business. It was her dream come to life. Then came the flood. Within days, everything was gone. Equipment, supplies, savings, wiped out. But what truly broke her wasn't the water. It was the shame, the self-blame. If only I had better insurance. If only I hadn't opened that second location. She carried the weight of that failure for years. She turned down opportunities, avoided conversations about her business, and convinced herself she wasn't meant to succeed. One day, while scrolling online, she came across a quote: "The past is a place of reference, not residence." Something shifted. For the first time in years, she questioned the story she'd been telling herself. Had she really failed, or had she simply experienced something hard? That night, she opened a blank notebook and wrote a new question. What did I learn? From that moment, she stopped grieving the past and started learning from it. She didn't rebuild her bakery. Instead, she started an online pastry school, teaching others how to start from scratch, just like she once had. Her audience grew. Her confidence returned, and her joy. The flood may have ended her business, but it didn't end her purpose. She just needed to release the version of herself that was still drowning in regret. We all have our version of Layla's flood, a moment where something collapsed, and we never truly let it go. But if you want to kill your negative thinking, you have to stop giving the past a seat at your table. Stop rehearsing the worst moments. Stop repeating stories that keep you small. You're not obligated to be who you were back then. Here's how you begin detaching. First, stop letting the past define your self-talk. Words like always, never, or again are clues that you're stuck in an old script. Instead, use words that leave room for growth. That happened, but I'm growing. That was then, this is now. Shift your language, and your identity will follow. Second, forgive yourself. Not because what happened was okay, but because carrying it is no longer useful. Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's choosing to move forward without the baggage. It's refusing to let a single chapter define the entire book. And finally, turn the regret into fuel. What can you teach because of what you went through? What do you now understand that you didn't before? The people who become the strongest aren't the ones with perfect pasts. They're the ones who turned pain into wisdom and moved forward anyway. So ask yourself today, what am I still carrying that no longer serves me? What version of myself am I still apologizing for? And am I ready to let go? Not because I have to, but because I deserve to. Your future can't grow in soil that's still filled with yesterday's failures. It's time to clear the space. Detach from the pain. Detach from the guilt. Detach from the version of you that didn't know what you know now. Because your best life isn't waiting behind you, it's ahead of you. And the moment you stop dragging your past into your present is the moment you finally step into your future. Number 3, stop comparing yourself to others. Comparison is a silent killer. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It doesn't hit you all at once. It eats away at you slowly. One moment you're feeling good about your progress, and the next you see someone else doing better, achieving faster, shining brighter. Suddenly your accomplishments feel small, your journey feels slow, and your confidence takes a hit. That's how comparison works. It blinds you from seeing your own growth by constantly shifting your focus to someone else's success. But here's the truth. Most people never realize no one starts from the same place. No two lives carry the same story, the same challenges, the same timing, and yet we compare as if life were a race with one finish line. It's not. Life is a personal journey. And the moment you begin measuring yourself by someone else's timeline, you stop honoring your own. Take the story of Vincent van Gogh. During his lifetime, he was dismissed, rejected, and overlooked. He struggled with mental health, poverty, and constant criticism. He compared himself to other painters, doubting his worth, questioning his path. He once wrote, "What am I in the eyes of most people? A nobody, an eccentric, an unpleasant person." And yet, he kept painting. He kept expressing what he saw in the world, even if the world didn't understand it yet. Today, his name is known globally. His work is studied, celebrated, and sold for millions. But during his life, he never saw that recognition. The point, if he had stopped because others were ahead of him, the world would have lost one of its greatest artists. Now think about how often we do this in our own lives. You're working hard, building something, and then you scroll through your feed or hear someone else's success story, and suddenly doubt creeps in. They're further than me. They're more talented. They're younger. I should be doing more. That voice doesn't push you. It paralyzes you. It makes you question your path, not out of self-reflection, but out of self-judgment. And the worst part, it steals your joy. Comparison doesn't just make you feel behind, it makes you forget what's unique about you. You start chasing someone else's version of success, abandoning your own ideas, your own voice, your own values. That's why comparison is so dangerous. It doesn't just distract you, it derails you. There's a man named Darren, a visual artist from a small coastal town. He didn't have formal training, didn't live in a creative hub, and didn't own expensive tools. He simply loved crafting seascapes using materials he found: driftwood, seashells, even sand. At first he felt proud of his work, but then he discovered a group of online artists with massive followings, studio lighting, and polished portfolios. The more he looked, the more discouraged he felt. He stopped posting. He questioned if his art was good enough. He even considered quitting altogether. But one day, a woman emailed him. She had seen one of his older pieces and wanted to buy it as a gift for her husband, who grew up near the sea. She wrote, "Your art feels like home." That single message reminded him of something powerful. He wasn't creating to compete, he was creating to connect. And the moment he stopped comparing and started focusing again on his own work, his creativity came back. Today, his work is featured in coastal shops across the region, and his story inspires other artists to stay true to their vision. That's the shift. From comparison to connection, from judgment to joy, from they're ahead of me to I'm exactly where I need to be. Here's how you can break free. Start by limiting your exposure to things that trigger comparison. It could be certain social media accounts, certain conversations, or even certain environments. Protect your focus. Next, reflect daily on your own growth. Not compared to others, but compared to yesterday. Are you showing up more consistently? Are you thinking more clearly? Are you moving with more intention? That's progress. Finally, replace envy with curiosity. When you see someone succeeding, don't ask, "Why not me?" Ask, "What can I learn?" Use their journey as inspiration, not as a ruler to measure your worth. And always remember, your timeline is sacred. Your story is yours for a reason. Rushing to match someone else's speed will only rob you of your peace. You don't have to be the fastest. You don't have to be the loudest. You just have to be real. And real beats perfect every time. So from this moment forward, stop looking sideways. Look within. Water your own roots. Grow your own way. Because the moment you stop comparing is the moment you start becoming. And that's the mindset that silences doubt, kills negativity, and frees you to build a life that's fully your own. Number 4, make a decision and stand by it. There comes a time in every person's journey when thinking, planning, and wishing are no longer enough. A time when progress demands something more than intention. It demands a decision, not a soft, conditional one. A real decision. The kind that closes every back door, says, "This is it. I'm doing this. No more excuses. No more delays." Because when you don't decide, you drift. You hesitate. You invite doubt to take the driver's seat. And that's exactly where negative thinking thrives, in hesitation. A decision is a line in the sand. It doesn't guarantee an easy path, but it does give you a firm direction. It tells your mind, this is where we're going, and nothing is pulling us off course. Most people never get to that place. They live in maybe, they toy with their dreams. They touch the surface, but never go all in. And because of that, they give fear a permanent seat at the table. Let me tell you about Derek. He grew up in the inner neighborhoods of Detroit. School was more about survival than learning. By the time he was 17, he had already dropped out. Not because he wasn't smart, but because he didn't see the point. He bounced from job to job, stocking shelves, cleaning lots, moving furniture. The kind of work that keeps you just busy enough to forget what you really want. One night, after another long shift, Derek came home to a power outage. It wasn't the first time. He lit a candle, sat in the dim kitchen, and stared at the electric bill he couldn't pay. And something inside him snapped, not in anger, but in clarity. He remembered watching electricians fix power lines in his neighborhood as a kid. He was always fascinated by how they worked. Fearless, skilled, respected. In that moment, he made a decision. He was going to become one. The next morning, he walked 2 miles to a trade school to ask what it would take. The counselor gave him a look, half surprise, half skepticism, but handed him a brochure. Tuition was more than Derek had. So he worked double shifts, sold his bike, borrowed from a cousin, and scraped it together. He enrolled. He studied harder than he ever had before, and he never looked back. Did the doubts come? Of course. Did people question him? Constantly. But the decision had already been made, and that's the thing about real decisions. They don't ask for permission from your feelings. They don't need motivation every day. They just move. One step at a time, 1 hour at a time, one test at a time. Years later, Derek not only became a certified electrician, but he opened his own contracting business. He now trains young men and women from the same neighborhoods he came from. People who feel stuck, just like he once did. And when they ask him how he did it, he always says the same thing. I made a decision, and I didn't let myself back out. That's the power of deciding. It eliminates the space where doubt grows. When you truly commit, you no longer ask, will this work? You ask, how will I make this work? That's a very different question. One creates fear. The other creates strategy. So what decision have you been delaying? Maybe it's finally starting that business, leaving a job that drains you, applying for something bigger than you think you deserve, getting healthy, ending a toxic relationship. You already know what it is. The question is, are you ready to stop thinking and start deciding? Here's the truth. You'll never feel fully ready. You'll never have every detail figured out. But decisions aren't made in perfection. They're made in courage. And when you make one, your energy shifts. You start walking with intention, talking with certainty, moving with conviction, and negative thinking, it loses its grip. Because now, you have something stronger than fear. You have commitment. So write it down. Say it out loud. Declare, this is what I'm doing. Then move. Take the first step. Don't ask 10 people for advice. Don't wait for the stars to align. Don't wait until you feel fearless. Just decide and stand by it. Because when you make a decision and follow through, your life begins to build around it. Confidence grows, clarity strengthens, and momentum starts to replace doubt. That's when you become unstoppable. Not because everything's easy, but because your mind is made up. And that's how you kill negative thinking. You drown it out with action. You starve it with focus. You bury it under discipline. Decide, commit, move, and don't look back. Number 5. Replace emotional reactions with thoughtful responses. Negative thinking often shows up during moments of high emotion. A sharp comment from someone close. A frustrating delay. A failure that stings more than expected. In those moments, we don't think, we react. The anger bursts out. The fear shuts us down. The disappointment steers us off course. And while the reaction may feel justified in the moment, it often makes things worse. It magnifies problems, damages relationships, and most dangerously strengthens the belief that we're not in control of ourselves. If you want to kill negative thinking, One of the most powerful shifts you can make is learning to pause. Not forever, just long enough to turn a reaction into a response. Because your strength is not just measured by how loud you speak or how fast you move, but by how well you think when the pressure is on. Let me tell you about Michelle. She worked in a fast-paced consulting firm in Boston, known for its competitive environment and constant deadlines. Michelle was smart, ambitious, and respected for her work. But she had one flaw: she reacted too quickly. If a client pushed back, she became defensive. If her team missed a deadline, she snapped. If her boss criticized her, she withdrew. Over time, her reputation began to change. No one questioned her skill, but people began saying, "She's hard to work with." One morning, after a tense meeting, her manager pulled her aside and said something that stopped her cold. "You don't have a performance problem. You have a reaction problem." It hit hard. At first, she was angry. But then she reflected, and she realized something painful but freeing. He was right. That night, she made a commitment. She wouldn't let her emotions dictate her leadership anymore. She started studying emotional intelligence, listening to books on managing reactions, and practicing mindfulness. Her most important tool became one simple habit: the pause. Before sending an email, she waited 5 minutes. Before responding in a meeting, she took a breath. Before jumping to conclusions, she asked one more question. Over time, her team noticed the change. She became the calm voice in chaos, the person others went to when things got tough. She didn't lose her edge. She sharpened it, because now, she wasn't just reacting to life, she was leading through it. And eventually her promotion came. Not because she became someone else, but because she mastered herself. That's the secret. Emotional reactions are fast and easy, but they usually lead you off track. Thoughtful responses are slower, more deliberate, and almost always more powerful. They don't ignore emotion, they rise above it. Let's be clear, your emotions aren't wrong. They're signals. Anger tells you something feels unjust. Fear tells you something matters. Frustration tells you something needs to change. But those signals don't have to become instructions. Just because you feel it doesn't mean you need to act on it immediately. The real strength is in the gap between stimulus and response. The moment someone challenges you and you pause. The moment something goes wrong and you breathe instead of blaming. That space is where your future is built. And every time you choose a thoughtful response over an emotional reaction, you're not just handling the moment, you're shaping your mindset. Here's how you can start. First, build awareness. Start noticing when you react impulsively. Is it in traffic? During arguments? When you're criticized? Awareness is the first layer of change. Second, build in the pause. It can be a breath, a step away, or a phrase like, "Let me think about that." That pause doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. Third, ask better questions. Instead of reacting, ask what's really going on here. What do I actually want as an outcome? What would my best self do in this moment? These questions recenter your thinking and help you respond with purpose. Finally, practice daily. You won't master this in 1 week, but over time, as you strengthen this response muscle, your entire identity begins to shift. You become someone who is calm under pressure, someone who doesn't flinch when things go wrong, someone who leads rather than reacts. And that kind of presence, it's rare, it's respected, and it's incredibly powerful in silencing the inner critic. Because when you show yourself that you can stay steady in storms, your mind begins to believe in your strength. And that belief starts to drown out the old doubts, the old fears, the old triggers. So remember this: reaction is instinct, response is mastery. And if you want to kill negative thinking, don't just fight it out, think it. Use the pause. Ask the better question. Respond with clarity. And over time, your calm will become louder than your chaos. That's real power. And it's already inside you. Number 6, condition your mind for high-performance thinking. Your life is built by your thoughts, not the random ones that come and go, but the consistent patterns you reinforce every single day. And if you want to rise above negative thinking, it's not enough to occasionally think positive. You need to condition your mind like an athlete trains for competition. Because your thoughts are the first step in every result you produce. Weak thoughts create weak effort. Strong thoughts create strong results. That's the law. Most people leave their mental state up to chance. They wake up and see how they feel. They react to problems instead of preparing for them. And because the world is full of fear, distractions, and negativity, their minds get shaped by whatever is loudest that day. But high performers don't leave it to chance. They train their thinking. They feed their focus. They decide what kind of thoughts will dominate their mind. And they reinforce those thoughts daily. Let me tell you about Nico, a young chess player from Sao Paulo. At just 14, he was already known in his community as a rising talent. He had quick instincts, strong vision, and a fierce desire to win. But he had one problem: his mindset. Whenever he lost a match, he unraveled. He would doubt his abilities, overanalyze his decisions, and sometimes go days without practicing. His coach saw the talent, but also the fragile thinking. And one day, after another meltdown, the coach sat him down and said, "You'll never master the board until you master your mind." That moment changed everything. Nico started treating his mind the same way he treated his game. He began journaling after every match, win or lose, not to dwell, but to extract lessons. He practiced visualization before tournaments, closing his eyes and seeing himself stay calm, focused, and strategic. He studied not just tactics, but the psychology of champions, how they rebounded from losses, how they stayed steady under pressure, how they talked to themselves in difficult moments. He also changed how he handled mistakes. Instead of spiraling into self-blame, he asked himself one question: what's the best move I can make now? That shift from dwelling to deciding turned frustration into focus. Over time, his confidence grew, not because he stopped losing, but because he stopped crumbling when he did. At 18, Nico won a national tournament, but even more impressive than the trophy was the transformation. His mindset was no longer fragile, it was trained. And that mindset became the foundation for every breakthrough he would have from that point forward. That's what conditioning your mind looks like. It's not about pretending problems don't exist. It's about preparing your mind to respond powerfully when they do. It's not about feeling strong all the time. It's about having mental tools ready when you feel weak. And it starts with your inputs. What are you feeding your mind every day? What are you listening to when you wake up? What kind of content fills your social feeds? Who are you having conversations with? All of these things are either building your mental muscles or weakening them. You have to become intentional. Read books that stretch you. Listen to voices that challenge your thinking. Write down your thoughts to see what patterns keep repeating. If your thinking is filled with doubt, anxiety, or judgment, trace it back to the source. What are you allowing in? Next, challenge your automatic thoughts. Don't believe everything you think. When your mind says, "I can't do this," respond with, "Why not?" When it says, "You always mess this up," say, "That may have been true before, but I'm not that person anymore." Speak back. Interrupt the script. Direct your focus. Also, visualize success. This isn't daydreaming. It's mental rehearsal. Athletes do it. CEOs do it. Top performers across every field do it. Why? Because when your mind has seen success before it happens, your body follows more confidently. See yourself walking into that meeting with calm strength. Hear yourself giving that speech with clarity. Imagine yourself staying composed under pressure. The brain doesn't know the difference between a real experience and a vividly imagined one. Use that power. And finally, keep promises to yourself. Nothing builds a strong mindset like self-trust. When you say you'll do something and you do it, especially when it's hard, you're proving to your mind that you can be relied on. And that reliability builds self-respect. And self-respect kills self-doubt. High-performance thinking isn't a gift. It's a system, a daily discipline, a choice you make every morning and reinforce every night. And every time you practice it, you rewire your brain to default to strength instead of fear. So don't wait until life tests you to start training your mind. Do it now. Condition it with intention. Sharpen it with challenge. Feed it with clarity. Because when your mind is trained, setbacks won't shake you. Criticism won't crush you. And fear won't own you. That's how you silence negative thinking, by building a mind it can't survive in. Train it, trust it, and let it lead you to the life you know you were meant to live. Number 7. Reconstruct your identity around strength, not weakness. Your identity is the most powerful force in your life. It shapes what you believe you can do, try, what you avoid, and what you tolerate. Most people think their identity is fixed, that it's formed by their past, their upbringing, or the labels they've been given. But here's the truth. Identity is not permanent. It can be rebuilt, reconstructed. And if you want to kill negative thinking, you must stop identifying with your limitations and start building your identity around your strength. Every action you take flows from how you see yourself. If you believe you're broken, you'll act like someone who can't be repaired. If you believe you're weak, you'll avoid the hard things that would make you stronger. But if you start to believe that you are resilient, that you're a fighter, that you have what it takes, you begin to act like it. You stop hesitating, you stop second-guessing, and you stop allowing your past to define your present. There's no better example of this than Bethany Hamilton. At just 13 years old, Bethany was attacked by a shark while surfing off the coast of Kauai, Hawaii. In a matter of seconds, she lost her left arm and nearly lost her life. For most people, that would have been the end of the dream, the end of surfing, the end of competing, the end of being who they thought they were. But not Bethany. After the attack, the world saw her as a survivor, a girl who had endured something traumatic and lived to tell the story. But Bethany didn't want to just survive. She wanted to surf. And not just surf, but win. Just 1 month after the attack, she was back in the water. 3 months later, she was competing again. What drove her? Identity. She didn't see herself as a victim. She didn't accept the label of disabled. She didn't let one moment, as traumatic as it was, rewrite the entire story of who she believed herself to be. She reconstructed her identity around her strength, not her wound, and that choice changed everything. Bethany went on to become a professional surfer, winning championships, inspiring millions, and living life on her own terms. She's written books, starred in a film about her life, and started a foundation to help others face adversity with courage. But more powerful than her resume is her mindset. She once said, "I don't need easy, I just need possible." That's not just a quote, it's a reflection of her identity. Now ask yourself, how do you see you? Not how others see you. Not how your past describes you. But how do you define yourself? If you constantly repeat, "I'm not disciplined," "I always mess up," or "I've never been confident," then don't be surprised when your actions follow that script. The brain works hard to stay consistent with who you believe you are. But here's the good news. You can rewrite the script. Start by identifying the old identity that's been limiting you. Where did it come from? Who told you that you weren't good enough? That you weren't a leader? That you couldn't succeed? Maybe it was a teacher, a parent, a boss, or even your younger self, whoever it was. It's time to let go. You don't have to keep carrying that story. Then get clear on the identity you want to build. Not a fantasy, but a strong version of you. Who are you when you're at your best? What do you value? What habits support the future you're building? Say it out loud. I am resilient. I am a finisher. I am disciplined under pressure. Speak it until your mind starts to believe it. Act on it until your habits start to match it. This isn't about lying to yourself. It's about choosing to build a better version of yourself based on who you're becoming, not who you used to be. And when you act in alignment with that new identity, in small ways you reinforce it. Every time you show up to the gym when you don't feel like it, you're voting for "I am consistent." Every time you speak up in a meeting when you used to stay silent, you're voting for "I am confident." Every time you finish what you start, even when it's hard, you're voting for "I follow through." Those votes matter, and over time they become who you are. Bethany's story is powerful because it proves that even in the face of loss, you can rebuild stronger. Your circumstances don't get the final say. Your choices do. Your pain doesn't define you. Your mindset does. So today, take a step. Reconstruct your identity. Drop the labels that no longer serve you. Stop living in the shadow of your old story. Build a new one that's rooted in courage, in grit, in growth. Because once you see yourself as strong, you start thinking like it. You start living like it. And negative thinking has nowhere left to land. Number 8. Avoid people who drain your energy. Negative thinking doesn't just come from within. It often comes from the people around you. Whether you realize it or not, your environment has a direct impact on your mindset. The voices you hear, the energy you absorb, the conversations you engage in, they all influence how you think and feel. And if you're constantly surrounded by people who drain you, doubt you, or distract you, it's only a matter of time before your thoughts start to match their energy. You weren't meant to carry everyone. You weren't meant to prove yourself to people who've already decided not to believe in you. And you certainly weren't meant to spend your life shrinking just to make others comfortable. If you want to kill negative thinking, you need to be brutally honest about who's taking up space in your mental and emotional world. Take the story of Amir. He was a young photographer from Cairo, with a keen eye and an even sharper ambition. His dream was to build a creative studio, something that could showcase the stories of everyday life in his city. He started by taking photos of local markets, street musicians, and families in motion. His work was raw, honest, and full of heart. But the people closest to him didn't see it that way. His friends laughed at his ideas. Photography isn't a real career, they'd say. Get a job that pays the bills. Whenever Amir got excited about a new project, they reminded him of how competitive the industry was. They mocked his small camera, his social media posts, and even his vision for telling meaningful stories. It didn't seem like cruelty, but the constant doubt wore him down. And slowly his motivation started to fade. He stopped sharing his work. He delayed projects. He began questioning whether he really had what it took. Until one day he was offered a small opportunity to display his photos at a local cafe. He was hesitant, partly from fear, partly from the noise in his circle. But something inside him stirred. He accepted the invitation and hung his work. On opening night, a woman came up to him with tears in her eyes. One of his photographs of a father and daughter holding hands by the Nile had reminded her of her late husband. "Thank you," she said. "You captured something real." That moment shattered the fog in Amir's mind. He realized that the people who doubted him weren't bad people. They were just the wrong people for his journey. After that night, he made a quiet but powerful decision. He started spending less time with the friends who drained him and more time in places that fueled him. Art galleries, creative meetups, online forums with photographers who inspired him. Slowly, his energy returned. His confidence grew, and his work began off. Today, Amir runs a boutique photography studio that documents life across the Middle East. His work has been featured in travel magazines and cultural exhibitions. But more than that, he's happy, focused, free. Not because the doubt disappeared, but because the doubters no longer had access to his mind. That's what happens when you protect your energy. Not everyone is meant to come with you. Some people were part of your past, not your future. And that's okay. But if you keep them in your life out of guilt, obligation, or fear of being alone, you'll pay the price in mental peace. Their fear becomes your fear. Their limits become your limits. Their sarcasm becomes your self-talk. And your vision becomes blurry. So how do you begin? Start by noticing how you feel after interactions. Do you feel inspired, uplifted, challenged in a healthy way? Or do you feel small, drained, dismissed? That feeling is your signal. Then create boundaries, not out of anger, but out of clarity. You don't have to make a dramatic exit. You simply start giving more time to the people and environments that expand you, and less to those that shrink you. Remember, it's not about cutting people off harshly. It's about choosing who gets the front row seat in your life. Because the people closest to you either multiply your momentum or block it. And just as important as avoiding draining people is finding those who pour into you. People who see your potential before you do. Who challenge you with belief, not doubt. Who remind you of your strength when you forget. These people aren't always flashy or loud. Sometimes they're quiet, consistent, and present when it matters most. You don't need a big circle. You need the right one. Your energy is sacred. Your vision is precious, and your environment matters more than you think. When you begin protecting your peace, choosing your circle with intention, and surrounding yourself with truth instead of toxicity, negative thinking starts to lose its grip. Not because it disappears, but because there's no longer room for it to grow. So today, take inventory. Who drains you? Who inspires you? And most importantly, who deserves access to your future? Choose wisely, because your mindset depends on it. Number 9. Keep moving forward no matter what. One of the most dangerous lies negative thinking tells you is this: stop. It's not working. You hit an obstacle, face a rejection, or experience a setback, and your mind whispers, maybe this isn't meant for you. That single sentence has stopped more dreams than failure ever could, because it's not failure that destroys progress. It's the decision to stop moving forward. If you want to kill negative thinking, you must develop a habit that's more powerful than emotion, more grounded than motivation, and more reliable than inspiration. That habit is forward movement, progress. No matter how small, no matter how slow, no matter how uncertain, keep going. Let me take you back to the story of Thomas Edison, a man whose name is now synonymous with innovation and perseverance. But he wasn't born with genius or handed success. He earned it through relentless forward motion. Edison is best known for inventing the electric light bulb, but what most people forget is how long it took. He didn't stumble upon the answer in one try or 10 or 100. He failed over 1,000 times. When asked about those failures, he famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That's not a clever quote. It's a mindset, a way of living, a refusal to give up just because progress wasn't obvious. Imagine the pressure, the voices telling him to move on, the temptation to believe he wasn't smart enough, fast enough, or talented enough. But Edison didn't listen to the noise. He trusted the process. He believed in the possibility, and more importantly, he just kept going. Eventually, he succeeded, and that one invention changed the world. But it wasn't the invention itself that was most impressive. It was the endurance, the decision to move forward, no matter what. That's the lesson for all of us. You don't have to have everything figured out. You don't have to feel ready. You don't even have to know how it's going to work. But you must keep moving. Because when you stop, you give your doubts time to grow roots. When you pause for too long, you start rewriting the story in your head. Maybe I'm not the kind of person who finishes things. Maybe success isn't for people like me. And before you know it, you're not just stuck. You've convinced yourself that stuck is permanent. Progress doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be consistent. Read one more page. Send one more email. Take one more step. Small actions compound. Tiny choices stack. And over time, they build momentum. And momentum crushes negative thinking. But let's be honest. It won't always be exciting. Some days forward will feel like crawling. You'll question if the effort is even making a difference. You'll look around and feel behind. And that's when the decision matters most. Not when it's easy, but when it's hard. That's where growth happens. In the quiet moments when you move forward, even when no one's watching, even when nothing is working, even when quitting seems easier, you need to build a no matter what mindset. That means you show up when you don't feel like it. You keep going when the motivation runs out. You act on discipline, not emotion. You do the work, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. And here's the beauty of it. Every time you move forward in the face of resistance, you build belief. You prove to yourself that you're not ruled by fear. You reinforce an identity of someone who finishes, someone who doesn't back down, someone who is becoming stronger by the day. Negative thinking loses power when you stop giving it space to grow. Action chokes out doubt. Forward movement leaves no room for fear to fester. You become too busy building to entertain the lies in your head. So ask yourself, where have you been hesitating? What have you put on pause because of fear or frustration? What dream have you left half finished because progress felt too slow? Restart it, recommit, and this time, don't stop. Make a decision that no matter how long it takes, no matter how many setbacks you face, you will keep going. You will finish, you will outlast the doubt. Because the truth is, most people don't fail, they just stop too soon. But not you. Not anymore. You've seen what happens when you let negative thinking sit in the driver's seat. Now it's time to take the wheel back. Keep moving forward, even if it's messy, even if it's quiet, even if it doesn't look like progress yet. Because every step forward rewrites the story in your mind. Every step forward reminds you who you really are. And that version of you, that's the one that negative thinking can't touch. Number 10. Decide right now that you will win. There comes a point in life when you can no longer afford to stay undecided. Not about your goals, not about your worth, and certainly not about your future. You have to choose. You have to draw a line in the sand and say, this is it. I'm done entertaining doubt. I'm done feeding fear. I've made my decision, and I will win. Because truly decide, everything changes. Your focus sharpens. Your energy aligns. Your thoughts fall into formation behind your mission. Negative thinking thrives in indecision. As long as you're unsure, it will whisper every reason to quit, every excuse to delay, and every doubt to slow you down. But the moment you commit with clarity, those whispers begin to fade. Why? Because a made-up mind is louder than a fearful heart. And when your decision is rooted in purpose, fear has nowhere to land. Let me tell you the story of Sophia. She was a 45-year-old single mother living in Manila. Life hadn't been easy. She had 2 children, a full-time job as a receptionist, and a list of responsibilities that left very little time for herself. But deep down, she carried a dream to create change in her local community, a dream to run for local office and be a voice for families like hers. For years, she told herself it was impossible. I'm too old. I'm not educated enough. Who would vote for someone like me? The doubts kept her stuck. But one evening, after attending a community event where local leaders gave speeches full of empty promises, something inside her clicked. She realized she wasn't waiting for permission. She was just avoiding a decision. That night, she made one. Not a wish, not a maybe, a decision. She would run. She didn't have the perfect plan, but she had her purpose. And that was enough to start. Sophia began learning everything she could about the election process. She woke up an hour earlier to study, asked questions from people who had run before, and used her weekends to meet with community members. She designed her own flyers, hosted meetings in her small backyard, and knocked on hundreds of doors with her 2 children by her side. People were surprised. They didn't expect someone like her to show up with that kind of conviction. But conviction is contagious. And little by little, her campaign gained momentum. Not because she had money or power, but because she had made up her mind. And when the election results came in, Sophia won. Not just the seat. She won back her confidence. She won back her belief. She won a battle that had been going on in her mind for years. The battle between who she was and who she could be. All because she decided, and she never looked back. That's what deciding looks like. It's not loud, it's not flashy, but it's firm. It's rooted. It's unwavering. So many people are one decision away from a completely different life, but they never make it. They keep waiting. Waiting for perfect timing. Waiting for validation. Waiting until the fear disappears. But here's the truth. Fear doesn't go away before the decision. It fades after it. Clarity isn't given before commitment. It's earned through it. You don't need all the answers right now. You don't need a perfect roadmap. You just need to decide that you will win. That no matter what comes, you won't quit. That you will rise when you fall. That you will find a way, even when the path looks blocked. Because when you decide to win, you stop asking, what if I fail? And start asking, how do I succeed? You stop negotiating with your limits and start building around your strengths. You stop reacting to life and start directing it. Your decision becomes your anchor. When the waves come, and they will, you stay steady. When the distractions appear, you stay focused. When the doubt creeps in, you remind yourself, I've already decided. And this isn't just about one goal. It's about how you live. People who decide to win don't flinch when things get hard. They rely on motivation to show up. They rely on the identity they've chosen. They act in alignment with the future they've already committed to. So today, this is your moment. Decide right now, not later, not when things feel easier. Right now, in the middle of the fear, in the middle of the unknown, decide that you are done living small, done second-guessing, done giving your energy to thoughts that shrink you. Say it to yourself, I will win. Not because it's guaranteed, but because you refuse to quit. Because you're done playing the mental game of maybe. Because the cost of indecision is too high, and your future is too valuable. That single decision will change how you walk into rooms, how you face setbacks, how you talk to yourself when no one's watching. It won't make things easier, but it will make you stronger. And that strength, it's the very thing negative thinking can't survive. So write it down, speak it aloud, let the world and your mind hear it clearly. I will win. I've made my decision, and I'm not turning back. Negative thinking doesn't vanish on its own. It waits. It waits for silence, for hesitation, for moments when you're tired or unsure. It disguises itself as logic, caution, even realism. But underneath it all, it's fear in disguise. And fear, when left unchallenged, grows louder. But here's what you've proven. Just by making it this far, you're not here to be ruled by that voice anymore. You've learned how to challenge it, how to disarm it, how to replace it. You now hold 10 powerful tools, 10 decisions, disciplines, and strategies to reclaim your mind and rebuild your strength. You've seen how self-improvement done daily weakens the grip of doubt, how letting go of past failures frees your energy, how comparison kills joy, how real decisions cut off excuses, and how a thoughtful response replaces emotional chaos. You've seen how to condition your mind for high performance, how to rebuild your identity from strength, how to protect your energy from draining voices, how to keep moving when everything screams stop, and most importantly, how to decide right now that you will win. But none of it means anything if you don't act. This is not a motivational moment to be forgotten. It's a call to change. Every negative thought you've carried can be rewritten, not with hope, but with discipline. Not with empty positivity, but with purposeful action. The battle in your mind is yours to win, but it starts now. So speak with boldness, move with clarity, walk with the confidence of someone who has already won the war inside. From this moment forward, kill the doubt, kill the hesitation, kill the negative thinking, and live like it's already dead.